This is the Wally and Methot Show Draft Spectacular, powered by Barrhaven Ford. Here are your hosts, Brent Wallace and Mark Methot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wally and Methot Show NHL Draft Live Spectacular Show something. It's a really long name, so I plan to shorten it a whole lot more as the night goes on. I'm Brent Wallace. Mark Methot will join us shortly. Also, just a reminder, this is your last opportunity to go to barrhavenford.com and get in on winning 4 opening night tickets against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the 100 level. You just got to pick who you think is going to go 10th overall by the Ottawa Senators, or they're at least their first round pick. We don't know. Maybe they'll trade up. Maybe they'll trade down to see if they can get in to a different spot. We wait to see how that's all going to play out. But a whole lot more to show you tonight that's going on. So many people behind the scenes putting a whole lot of stuff together. So we will get to it momentarily. We've got the guy who's from Russia, now back in Canada and back on our show. Igor Sokolov is going to join us live momentarily. Lots of fun things going on in the show. At 8 o'clock, we're going to bring in Ian Mendes, and he's going to join us as we go through the draft and see who the Sens select in the first round. And Meth is going to come here and give us all kinds of in-depth, insightful, well, perhaps he's just going to talk a lot about whitewater beer. We'll see. That's all coming up later in the show. We're giving away prizes throughout the show as well, so make sure you stick around and join us on Twitter. And we will have using the hashtag Wally Methot, we will start handing out some prizes. That's courtesy of BEI. And also, you can have time still now to get in on your bets at sportsinteraction.com. You can pick who you think is going to go 10th overall. Right now, the odds-on favorite, I think, are still Jesper Wallstedt. We'll see if that becomes the newest Ottawa Senator. Take a look at all that stuff. Just go to sportsinteraction.com/Wally Methot. Now, without further ado, I've made him wait too long. He's got too much going on since he's back in Cape Breton. We bring in our own contribution to Shark Week. It is brought to you by Whitewater Beer. Use the Whitewater Beer coupon at 15% off. Go use it's a Wally Methot coupon. Shop whitewater.ca and pour yourself a couple of Whitewaters because this is going to be a fantastic interview as it always is. So welcome to the show, our good friend Igor Sokolov. Sir, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you? I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
So when did you get back into Canada?
Well, I just got back in a couple of weeks ago, but I had to do my quarantine, right? So I've done that, and now I'm back in the mix. Yeah, just, running around trying to do all the things that, I kind of put on a pause while doing my quarantine.
Is your second family, your billet family, excited to see you?
Yeah, obviously, it was pretty hard for them to not able to be in contact with me for 2 weeks, but knowing that I'm in Canada, right? So
yeah,
that was pretty rough for them. But since then, we've been spending much time as we can, and I've been enjoying my time in Cape Breton, obviously my second home. So got my first car, so I'm driving around now myself. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Wow, what are you driving?
I got Hyundai Tucson.
Nice.
Nice and simple at the start. Nice and simple. Don't go too fancy.
Has it got heated seats?
Oh, I gotta keep that warm during the winter.
I love the heat. I'm so soft now. Every car must have heated seats. It's a must for me.
Yeah, I will give you a drive.
What have you been up to since you've just gotten out of quarantine? Are you all over the place in the middle of the night?
Well, I got out of quarantine, and the first day I basically had to do everything was on a pause. So I went had to work out, by myself, no motivation in the house with two pairs of dumbbells and a band. But I made it through. But since then, I bought the car that day. I got a vaccine shot, and obviously working out, and got back on the ice and. Spending as much time with my billets, and just main focus is training, and try to get in best shape as I could before training camp starts and everything starts to keep rolling, and looking forward to that.
Very nice. So what was it like, I guess, with COVID back in Russia? Can you explain to us what we didn't see over here that was different perhaps in Russia?
Well, I don't know how to start. But I'm going to start from somewhere. So when I was flying back home from Canada, the flight to Amsterdam was absolutely empty, empty. I had as much space as I could use as long as I have my mask on. Then I get to Amsterdam, and it's a flight to Moscow, and it's literally full packed plane. And I'm like, holy crap, like I'm not used to be around that many people. Like I kind of got scared a bit. So I'm like sitting down, pulled my mask all the way up, hand sanitizer all over me. Just every second I touch everything, just keep doing that. Made it through, get to Moscow, and I walk out. Nobody cares. No masks, nothing. Nobody cares already there. It's just like, yeah, well, it's been over a year. We're over it. So no mask. But the masks are still mandatory there. Like, you know what I mean? They didn't lift that rule. Go through Moscow. I got my flights. Basically, they were connected. But because I had to wait for my luggage, for my bags, I couldn't make it to my plane. So I had to wait another 7 hours in Moscow to get to my hometown. So I was sitting 7 hours in Moscow and I see all those people around me. I was like, I can't handle the crowd around me. Like, I can't handle it.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I got back home and I was like, you don't have to quarantine there. You go test on the second and the fifth day. If you're negative, you're good to go. And after that, I was just like, kind of at the start, because the COVID kind of slowed down there big time. Like, it was really getting better, and especially in my hometown, it was barely any cases. So I seen people without the mask. So I kind of like took it off, for a couple of days just to see how it feels like. I went kind of grocery stores without it, to the like other stores without it. And I was like, oh man, like whenever we're able to have no mask, like I can't wait for that time. Like that feels nice. But then it's like kind of started wrapping up again. Like COVID hit it again, like a third wave and stuff. Double mask, washing my hands again, and it's just like, yep, I can't not wear a mask here.
Man. Well,
yeah,
so how long did it take before were you able to get on the ice as much as you wanted when you were over there, or did you have to wait?
Well, I was on the ice. Well, I took like 8 to 10 days off. I had to finish all the stuff I had to do. Like I had to do my university stuff. I actually graduated from my university. I got my diploma. Now
nice.
I officially can train kids. So I did that, and I had to change my passport, because when you turn 20, your passport expires in Russia, so you got to change it. But last year I couldn't come home. So I kind of like got back home and I was like scared what they're going to tell me. I'm already 21 and I have to change it, but it worked out well. And well, I explained them all the situation. And then, so I started going back to the gym, and me and my brother were able to rent ice. And I was just, skating with him one-on-one 2 to 3 times a week. And then as the time went on, I seen a couple other guys skating before us. And I was like, and I knew them, and I was like, why wouldn't we just skate together? And I guess we pay less money, right? So we just skated.
Before we bring on Meth, who's joined us now, just curious about what is it that you're able to train kids to do with your diploma?
It's basically like the hockey, like I could be a hockey coach for kids, but I can't go like junior level or stuff like that. Like it could be only like under, I don't know, 10, under 11. I got to do another 2 years to be able to coach kids who plays like MHL. It's like junior here. And then another 2 years to be able to be a KHL coach.
Cool. Welcome to the show, Mark Methot. Good to see you, sir.
Howdy.
Yeah, so it's your world, eh? Your world.
Hey, Igor, I have 2 young kids. Wally has teenagers. Everybody else here has kids that are older. Mine, like, they need me to put them into bed. So that's what I was doing. My apologies. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Sorry, I was just kidding. Like, you don't. I know how you look. I know your shape, so I don't want to mess around with you.
Good man. All right, sounds good, brother.
I think so. Igor, is it your dream after playing professional, you're going to end up being a coach? Is that what you'd like to do?
Yeah, I would love that.
Cool. You say you're scared of Meth's size. You're 6'4". You're actually bigger than Meth. No, Meth, are you 6'5"?
I'm 6'4".
Okay. See, you're the same size.
Yeah, but I think his Instagram post.
But I'm also a mutant. All I do is work out every day. So I've got that advantage right now. But I'm having a beer, so that's always a plus.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I see his Instagram posts, so you know what?
That's right.
I'm gonna save my words, just for myself.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually go back to your draft. You were listed at 240 in your draft, and I think maybe last year 223. Like, what weight are you at?
213.
Wow.
I am carrying a 6-pack, not a 1-pack anymore.
Not a boy. And you know what? There aren't a lot of forwards that size right now. Like, of course, every team has a couple, but I feel like nowadays you guys are, they're rare. And the ability that you can have now to handle the puck and protect it along the walls from defensemen is that much greater, because those big lumbering D-men aren't really around as much anymore, right? So that's something that you can take advantage of as you progress here in your pro career.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this summer I took it to another level. I think I thought, like, I guess everybody maybe was expecting me going back home to Russia and just say, yeah, well, it's Russia, it's Russian vodka and stuff, right? but I was grinding, and I came here, and like all the guys seeing me around, and they were like, what did you do to yourself? I was like,
good for you.
I'm not sure what I did to myself, but I'm carrying a 6-pack, not a 1-pack anymore, guys. Like,
yeah.
Do you notice it on the ice? Like when you're skating, do you notice it?
Yeah, I feel just like, I feel so much lighter, and I feel so much like, when I trust my edges and stuff like that. Like coming out of turns, it's not as heavy, right? So like, like I feel strong. I feel that I'm strong because I lost all the fat, right? Not the muscle. Because like I'm on the gym five times a week, like. And I'm eating enough protein, and like I eat all the good stuff. Like it's no way I'm losing the muscle. So and the weights I'm lifting, it's every week it's keep getting like more and more. So I feel way more comfortable.
Well, and it's also great as far as you're demonstrating to the team, to your hockey club, that you're committed, and they always love that. So when you come back to camp and they see that you put in the effort and put in some time in the gym and taking your summer seriously, I feel like the team it resonates very, very much so with the team, and they'll really appreciate that. So that only works to your advantage. So congratulations on that. Keep working hard.
Thank you.
Was there a mindset that you had to make? So you're known as a big power forward who can protect the puck in the corners. If you think about dropping 30 pounds or whatever it is, that you're afraid of being pushed off the puck, did you have to change that mindset?
I thought that it's being 240, but being fat and not have enough muscle on me, it's gonna not work, because like, you know what I mean? Like it's not a strength in me. Right. Like I can still get pushed around. Like if the guys are strong enough, like if they're not like, I get like, let's say they're not like 160 pounds, but the guys who are 190, 200 pounds, there's so many guys right now who's in great shape and they're strong. Yeah. Even they're 190 and 200 pounds. Like if he's going to push me, like I'm going to lose the edge. I'm going to fall. Right. Like I'm just not going to have that stability that I have right now, where I'm at 213, but it's all muscle, and I've been working hard and the strength is growing. So like I found that was just like it was just the one point where I had to change so many things in my life and just become a pro player. Just before that, like even like last summer, I guess we call it that way. I had a 9 months of summer where I dropped all that weight to, I showed up in camp as a 217, right? So that's where like I lost 15, 17 pounds by that time. So and I started feeling more comfortable. And then, as soon as I walked into the like camp and stuff like that, and I felt like, I'm against NHL guys, but like I'm not getting pushed around as much as I thought I would be, right? So, and then go and play in the AHL where the guys are really tough too. And so many guys there who was playing NHL games and they're all in a great shape. So like that just helped me. But I thought it was just something I had to change.
And Igor, as Chris Schwartz, the strength coach of the Ottawa Senators, have you had to go back and forth and check in with him or anybody else? I mean, in Belleville, or anybody in particular that you're kind of relaying information back and forth with? I'm
more with Jeremy Benoit is our Belleville strength coach. I'm more with him. Yep. He was the guy I was talking to before the draft happened, actually. He was the guy on the call with me talking about just what I'm doing in the gym and stuff like that. And since then, he just took over. And, it just felt nice this year where I'm a pro hockey. And, like as the year went on, I got better. I felt I got better because I had a guy who is telling me, that like, yeah, I feel your ankle stabilities need some work. So he gives me some exercises and he just gives it to me and I decide if I want to do them or not. And I keep working on them every day. And then all of a sudden he comes up to me after a game and tells me like, buddy, like you look more comfortable on your edges, like it's working. And then like he gives me mobility things for my hips because I'm a big guy. And I keep doing it over and over. And he comes up to me like, look at your stride, look at your speed. You're not like you can compete with your speed any guys in that league, right? Good. So then the year went on because everybody had so many concerns about my skating. One second, I'm gonna turn on the light.
I was gonna say.
Is he out east, Wally?
He's in Cape Breton.
Oh, because that would explain how it's getting darker a little sooner, huh?
Yeah. 1 second.
I love this.
We've had Ron Tugnut fix the turkey in the oven.
I was talking to you, but I couldn't really see myself in there.
This is why. When you're back in
the year went on, and like everybody had so many concerns about me not being able to compete at that level. Like my pace wouldn't be good enough, right? And then like I have meetings with coaches where they tell me like, you shouldn't be concerned about it anymore. Like you're beating guys wide, you're back check and you're catching the guys. So I was like, it's just a different thing when you play in a junior hockey. It's a team warm-up. Nobody's going to give you your warm-up. And you're, 18, 19 years old kid who doesn't know what to do. Like how am I going to know what I have to do for my hips mobility? How am I going to know how to get my ankle stronger, right? But we're in pro, you have a guy who just tells you like, that's your weak point. If you want to do it, you do it. But if you don't want it, you're never going to become a pro player. You're never going to, 3 years of your entry-level contract, they're going to burn out, and then, you're done. So that was a key.
Yeah, that's the difference. I mean, what I noticed when I played, and I was sort of in your position where I was, kind of close to making the NHL level, but I was starting to play really well at the American League level. And I noticed that was the difference between the players that were committed and wanted to make that next step. You do all those little things, right? You worry about your diet. You train a little harder than everybody else does in the summer. The hip mobility stuff, all those little things that the Senators are handing over to you, like Jeremy, you're actually doing them. Whereas there were some players that I would play with and they wouldn't do anything, right? The summer was for fun. They were drinking on the weekends. They didn't take their training very seriously. And those guys just faded away. So I think you're on the right path. And that's something that I think I can appreciate because it's not easy, right? You've got all your buddies. They all want to hang out with you. You want to have fun, but you have to sometimes learn how to say no and separate yourself from that and commit to your game because your body is your temple right now, right? That's your ticket to make money and get secure. And if you can't do that properly, no team's going to want to play you.
Exactly.
Quickly, Igor, when you are back in Russia training, do you do anything different that's out? I don't know. That's not in the realm of going to the gym and lift. Like, is there anything are you lifting potato bags in the backyard? Are you flipping tires? Is there anything you're doing that's different?
Oh, well, I was at the cottage with my mom. And if I go to the cottage, my mom doesn't like me sitting around. My mom likes me doing something. So it was anything I could do.
Fighting bears.
I don't know, like everything. I don't know, just like anything. Like I don't even know how to. Like the grass would be too high. Like I don't know how you do it. What do you
use a sickle?
We're using like a scythe or something. Or
no, is that mowing or whatever? How you call that when you cut the grass?
Well,
we use the lawnmower.
Lawnmower.
But we had like a thing where you like, I don't know.
Like a whippersnipper? Like a weed eater?
Yes, I don't know. I don't know how to call it in English. I didn't learn that word yet.
Yeah.
I gotta get there.
Those are great.
Or like carry something there. So it was just like those things I had to do. And she would be sitting there sipping on her beer and having chips, and I would be just there swimming around. I was like, Mom, it's a weekend. It's my 2 days off I have. Like I just worked 5 days. I worked out 5 days in a row. I've been on the ice 3 times this week. I'm dead. Like, can I have my time off? No.
It's
going to make you tougher. Yeah. It's going to make you tougher.
Yeah.
Are you a big deal now back in your hometown? You've been on this show and we made you like a celebrity?
I think so. I think so. A lot of people liking it. Like I saw my assistant coach from Cape Breton today. I actually took them out for dinner. because I own him. Chris Colligan, he actually has the most points in Eagles history. He was a captain back in the days playing in junior in Cape Breton. So me and him made a bet when Canada-Russia was playing World Juniors at semifinals, I believe this year. And he said Canada is going to win. I said Russia is going to win, and Russia lost 6-1, so I owed him a dinner. So I had to take him out for dinner. And then they were talking about how much they love the videos I have and stuff like that. So, yeah. Well, I got to see more people around, I guess, now because I only seen them. So see what they say.
You can take care of that tonight. We're only going to keep you for a few more minutes. I want to talk about your draft because you went through 3 of them. When you look back at it now, what does last year or last October at this time mean to you?
Well, obviously it meant everything. It's a special moment. But, at that point, I knew that, like I said, I said before to you that in the last interview we had that all the hard work I put in at the gym and on the ice, like it paid off. So now, like I said, after that was the next goal was signing a deal, and the next goal was, going to camp, and the next goal playing AHL. So I, prove myself at that level. And now, going into this camp as with the right mindset and, try to, obviously still a job. But if that doesn't happen, I go back to AHL and, I keep working at it and, one step closer to my dream. But, being drafted, I mean, I can tell that, any kids, whoever watching that and they're, have an opportunity to get drafted today or tomorrow, right? If you don't get picked, like you can, go hard on yourself. Like it's been a rough year for everyone. So many guys, didn't have an opportunity to play hockey and they were just, not seeing how they do. So I think for the most, I don't know who's watching us right now. I hope some guys do. I just want to say to them that if you're not drafted this year, you got to come into the camp whenever, OHL, QMJHL, WHL, whatever league you're playing in. And, if you got to have another like 20 or 30 days of training you got before camp, you got to put all the work you have in you and, try to prove so many guys wrong. So, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Did you ever Google yourself about what your draft rating was like or what people were saying about you heading into the draft?
Well, my first year, obviously, because, I played a top prospect game.
Yeah.
Like I was listed at top 100 and I didn't get picked. So, but then after that, my second year, I knew I'm kind of not over there. But in my third year, I was not worried about it. I was just worried about my game. I was just worried about, step by step, playing, having a good start with the Q team and then playing a Canada-Russia. So my goal after that was making a World Junior team, making a World Junior team. So then I have to prove to people that I'm able to compete against the guys who are all drafted to NHL in the first rounds. Basically, I can compete against them, right?
Yeah.
I can score goals. So then I had that goal in me, and I did that too, I believe, like many guys said. And then after that, I was going back to Q, where after Christmas, I scored 25 goals in 20 games or whatever was it. So, and, obviously I still hate myself for I hate all that situation that COVID, ruined the playoff round because I really thought that our team was really good and we had, potentially could have won the cup. So I was just that year, my focus was just to prove people wrong, and just tell myself that I can do better than I did last year and the year before. And, I knew that positive things will happen.
Last question I have for you, and I don't know how close you are with Joey Daccord. Was it tough to see him go to Seattle?
Yeah, because he's a close friend with Kevin Mendo. They knew each other before, and I'm really close with Kevin because we've been in junior for 3 years. So we kind of hang out with him a lot when I was there. And, I sent him a text and I said, good luck, bro. And it was just a pleasure to meeting you. And I enjoyed my time talking to you. And it wasn't, long because it was just, half a season where most of the time he had to spend in the NHL and recovering from his injury. But it's obviously sad to see the guy go like him because he's a special person and he's a nice guy all around. And, you always wanted just to go talk to him and just see how he's doing. And, he always going to have a conversation with you. So he sent a nice message back to me where he said, just it was a pleasure to meeting you and good luck and stuff. So, I obviously happy for him too, but because it looks like he's happy. So, I'm wishing him best of luck.
Yeah, we wish him the best of luck. We wish you the best of luck. It's now time for you to go out and enjoy your friends of being back in Cape Breton. We don't want to keep you anymore, but we appreciate you stopping by. We look forward to seeing you at Sens training camp and hope that you make your NHL debut this season.
Yep. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, all right. Igor. Take care, Igor.
All right.
There goes Igor Sokolov, the Belleville Senators and the Ottawa Senators. He was picked in the second round, 61st overall, I believe it was. Anyway, he led the Belleville Senators in scoring last season. He is a true pleasure and a treat to have on the show, eh, Meth?
I agree. And he's so well-spoken, right? Yeah. Like, I feel like he's come a long way over the last couple of years with his English language, and he's certainly not shy. He's very outgoing and he's funny. So players like that just seem to find a way to kind of last, I find. Like, just from my experiences playing in Wally, I'm sure you can attest to that. They just seem to stick around with organizations because they carry such a great attitude.
Well, but he's also made the commitment, right? Like, that's huge. Yeah. You have to make that commitment. You've got, like, and I can even go to Chris Neal, who people thought was done near the end of his career, and then he dropped all the weight. He got quicker. You've got to make that decision to continue to find a way to stay in the league. And Igor's at the beginning of his career, obviously, but you can see the commitment he's made to want to be in the league. I think it's a huge bonus for him.
Yeah, and it sounds like no one's really holding his hand, right? Like, this is all him. He's doing this on his own. And unlike him, I had a lot of resources when I was, because of course I'm from Canada and I was playing here, and all the guys that I was training with in the summertime, I knew what I was doing. He doesn't really have that necessarily. So that's a testament to his character. And that's why I think we're all such huge fans of him. I mean, he's a funny guy for sure, and he's a great interview, but beyond that, you nailed it there, Wally. Just really good commitment. And for me, I mean, that's a game changer when you're a player.
And speaking of really good quality people, I want to welcome in our good friend from The Athletic. Hey, everybody's favorite person, Ian Mendes, here to join us now to take us through the draft, who knows everything about every prospect that's on the list, all 500 players. Ian, welcome to the show.
That's not what you told me my role was going to be here. By the way, how great is Igor Sokolov, guys? Like that, I know you just talked about what a great attitude this guy. Like, how do you not watch that interview and all the segments he's done on your podcast? How do you not watch that and not pull for this guy, right? Like, 100%. Yeah.
He's unintentionally creating a huge fan base for himself. You know what I mean? Like, because he's genuine. And it's not like it's self-serving for him, but in fact it is. I mean, I think everyone's becoming huge fans of Igor.
Yeah, it's almost like Artem Zub, right? Artem Zub has this really cool cult following, and I think and he doesn't even say anything. And Sokolov's like the exact opposite, where he's creating a cult following, but he's super outgoing. He's super active on social media, doing the segments with you guys. So this is this is great to see this unfold with him.
Great.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. By the way, you're watching the Wally and Methot Draft Show Spectacular Live. I don't even know what it's called anymore, Meth. I'm just trying to say some words that it's a long show.
That sounds cool. And I mean, I it's funny because it's not like any of us are real huge databases of prospects, but I've got it on in the basement here. I'm in the movie theater room. That's where my setup is. So I got it on the big screen, and I guess we're just going to see what unfolds, but we got our insider, Ian Mendes, here to give us all the info today. So we're
guy that knows all the picks. So, by the way, this is powered by Barrhaven Ford. We'll be here through the first 10 picks, or perhaps if Ottawa makes a later pick that maybe they're going to drop. I don't know. But you know what the problem is with this? None of us discussed what would happen if Ottawa traded down. And if we're going to get off after the 10 pick, or we're going to have to stay and wait. So, I believe, Mendes, you're here till we're off the air.
What? So if they trade down to 19, I'm here with you guys? Like,
yeah. So buckle up.
Okay.
So let me just first, the show is now underway. The draft is about to begin here soon. Here are the top 10 orders of selection. We're going to talk about the Sens here in a sec. But in at number 1, Buffalo, Seattle, Anaheim, New Jersey, Columbus at 5th, then Detroit, San Jose, Los Angeles. Now Arizona at 9th after they made the big move with Vancouver. And then, of course, Ottawa at 10. Mendes, I want to go through Pierre Dorian's comments yesterday. You covered the presser. What did you take away? And it's tough to get anything out of a general manager leading into the draft. They're not going to say we want to take a goalie at 10 or any of that. So what are your key takeaways?
Look, there's a degree of deceit that goes on with general managers 365 days of the year. But in particular, they're even more likely to kind of, play with the truth around the draft. And so I think you gotta always keep that in the back of your mind. Like, I think it's really interesting. Pierre Dorion on Thursday, first thing he said was, we're going to be picking at 10. We're going to either get a goalie, or we're going to get a top 4 defenseman, or we're going to get a top 6 forward. But it's like he intentionally said goalie first, didn't he? Like I
but
think
you build from the net on out.
So the amount of times that they have put out in the public realm that they want to maybe take a goalie is intriguing to me. But what's even more intriguing is that in the last couple of hours here, the pick right before them has moved and the pick right after them has moved. And now you got to ask yourself, are the two teams that are now sitting around Ottawa, Columbus right behind them by virtue of the Seth Jones trade, and now Arizona right in front of them, are they looking for a goalie? Because if they are, all of a sudden this could become really interesting to me.
Yeah.
So do you two gentlemen think that Ottawa moves this pick and moves up in the draft?
Don't ask me. I legitimately have no idea. And I mean this sincerely. I can sit here and act like I'm Bob McKenzie, but I'm not. I can understand we're looking for storylines and everyone's always, there's this great debate. Is it a goalie? Is it a centerman? Is it they're going to go, in my opinion, at least my gut instinct tells me they're going to go with the best available player when it comes around. We have a wealth of goaltenders in the system right now. I think you just go with the best available player and you stick with it. I don't think they're going to move around. I think they're going to sit right there at 10.
Shocking to me that the guy in the Chewbacca t-shirt is not an expert, but I got to tell you, I think the Ottawa Senators have they've afforded themselves the luxury, in my opinion, to take a swing. Like, go ahead. Like, agreed. If you swing and miss, whatever. I think they've got a pretty good collection of players already. Jake Sanderson's not even in the NHL. The guy you just had on your show, Igor Sokolov's not in the NHL. Lassie Thompson's not there. There's, all the goalies. Look, if they take a goalie here and he's an unmitigated disaster, they shot their shot. If they took a top 6 guy and he doesn't pan out, whatever. This doesn't feel as urgent as last year's draft. Like last year's draft, it felt like it was franchise altering, didn't it?
Yeah.
They're picking at 3, they're picking at 5. This one feels like a little bit like they got some house money to play with. So I think I agree with Matt. I think you take the best player available, but it sure as heck seems like if the top 9 skaters go, the best player available might be a goalie in Sebastian Cossa or Jesper Wallstedt. And that becomes an interesting debate.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just get to that last thing then. Does Ottawa need an elite goalie? So I wasn't on board of this originally. I'm like, goalie at 10 seems really high. You always find them later in the rounds. But then I'm thinking Ottawa doesn't have necessarily that number 1 franchise altering goaltender in the system.
I just want to add one point to that because a lot of people talk about what you just said, Wally, but an elite goalies mature later than any other player in the lineup. You pick a player now, that's great. And it could be technically part of the rebuild in X amount of years, but you're really not going to see that goalie peak probably until he's, in his later 20s. So for me, it's like no matter who you grab at this point, it's not going to be a game breaker next season for us or for the end for the Ottawa Senators. So to echo what Ian said and what you said, I mean, for me, it's simple. It sounds like the best available player at 10 will likely be a goaltender, but if it's not, like Ian said, it's not a big deal. Like the team's going to be just fine. They're in such a great position right now. I understand though that we need to talk about something. And of course, these are potential picks for the Sens, but I mean, a goaltender, you're not going to get prime goaltender for at least 8 years of development. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. You know what? It's not only is it your opinion, Meth, I think it's fact. I think, look at it. I think a lot of people got nudged in the direction of taking a goalie in the first round after they watched Andre Vasilevsky and Carey Price go head to head in the Stanley Cup final. But let's take a moment and realize it took Carey Price 16 years to get the Stanley Cup final. Andre Vasilevsky was drafted in the first round in 2012. So
exactly.
For Vasilevsky became an elite goaltender in the National Hockey League, but it really took him, 4, 5, 6 years to get there. Carey Price, again, same thing, probably took him 5 years, 6 years before he kind of pushed Yarrow Halak out of there in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
The guy that they take, let me put it this way. If you're the Ottawa Senators, your plan A is Matt Murray. Matt Murray, when you are ready to compete for a Stanley Cup, Matt Murray is still option A. I think so anyway, right? Like based on his age and his pedigree.
Yeah, I agree. I can't even argue with that. And I think a big change for the positive, at least with Matt Murray, as you mentioned, Ian, he's got an opportunity finally now to have a normal summer. He's got a little bit of a familiarity with the organization, with the team, the city. He's settled in. He's not having a baby this year. He's going to have a training camp. There's going to be a lot more of those intangibles that are going to work in his favor, as opposed to last year. I think people tend to forget that when you go to a new team, I experienced it when I went to Dallas. It's weird, man. Like you go in there, you don't really know any of the players, maybe one or two perhaps, but for the most part, it's uncomfortable. And it takes you a couple months to really get comfortable in your own skin and play some good hockey. So I think this is an opportunity where we're going to see Matt Murray come to camp. He's going to be in good shape. Hopefully he's going to be prepared mentally, and we're going to see a much different player. That's again, fingers crossed, of course. There's no guarantee, but I think having a normal training camp and getting used to your teammates is something that you just can't replicate anywhere else in the summer.
I think the way you guys got to put the headline in for this episode is Spezza and Bishop don't welcome Methot to Dallas with open arms.
And they did.
You have those
really
guys there?
did.
What are you talking
They
about?
did.
Like,
He
didn't roll in not knowing anybody.
But I was a bit of an exception. First of all, I'm not a goalie, and I'm not a little odd and weird like most of them are. So I'm outgoing. I tend to have good relationships with most players. I don't think the same can be said for a lot of goalies. So we'll just leave it at that.
All right. Just a reminder, the Ottawa Senators have 6 picks in this draft. They'll pick 10th. They'll pick 39th as the last pick of the Erik Karlsson deal. They'll pick 42nd in the second round, 74th, 170. And in the 7th round, they'll pick 202. Meth, when you were picked in the 6th round, you didn't even go to the draft. So how do you view this day as a former player who was drafted, but just not in this way?
Well,
are you a little disappointed you never got to go to the stage?
No, because I was in the 2003 draft. And if anybody has half a brain in the hockey community, they take a look at that first 2 rounds. Like Shea Weber went in the 2nd round. That just kind of gives you an idea of how deep it was. So I had a pretty good inkling that I wasn't going to go in that first day. And the way it worked in the past was a little different, of course. I think it was the first 3 rounds on that first night. And then the second day, day 2, were the rest of the rounds up until I want to say 8 or 9.
Yep.
So, and I know it changes, but yeah, I mean, but I was pissed off, right? Like as a player, you're competitive and you have a good idea where you stand with players that you played against in junior. And you see all these random guys, like I'd see defensemen go in the 2nd and 3rd that I, in my mind, felt like I was a better player. And so it's hard and it's very stressful for these kids. So there was an account, it was that Lalim's Martian account. He made a really good post today and it was very simple. He was saying, as a fan base, let's not be too hard on some of these picks. It might not be your guy, but like, remember, these are human beings that are sitting on their phones, young kids that are just elated that they're getting drafted. And the landscape is much different right now, right? Like when I was drafted, I didn't have to worry about going on my phone and finding some guy calling me a plug, right? Like I didn't have to worry about that. But kids now, it's different. So we have to be very supportive of who they pick. We know that the scouting here does a fantastic job in Ottawa, so we have to trust them. But yeah, I mean, as far as my experience goes, I was sleeping in because I was almost borderline depressed on that second morning. And my mom actually came and woke me up. I think it was around 11. I might have gone out the night before, and she drags me out of bed and she's like, Mark, you got a phone call. And I knew right away it was like Christmas, right? And I ran to the phone and it was the Blue Jackets. So it was a cool experience after that. But I mean, I think for any later round draft pick or free agent that doesn't get picked, I mean, you're automatically going into that camp with a chip on your shoulder or the following season. And that's kind of how I approached it.
Did you think you were going to go higher, or were you expected probably to be 5th, 6th round?
I thought I was going to go higher for sure, but I was late, right? Like I my first year in junior hockey, like the OHL level, I was 17, and kind of like Igor, where, I mean, I didn't play in the prospect game, and I certainly wasn't ever ranked on that CHL central scouting list. Like that was a horrible thing to experience throughout the year, right? You think you're playing very good hockey, you're never even mentioned on the list at all. But in the end, it's just, that's all part of, I think, what made me get to this point, right? It's being kind of written off and having motivation to prove people wrong. And that might not always be the best way to approach it, but it worked for me. And that's what I did. And it stuck with me for most of my career.
By the way, I love Meth's story of he gets a call on a landline, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's right.
Drafted. So here's a question for you guys. What do you think the protocol is? Was it Doug McLean or was it who was in Columbus?
It was Doug.
Okay.
It was Doug. Yeah.
So let's play this scenario out for a second. I want to ask you guys something. How does this happen? Doug McLean phones the Methot home. Can I speak to Mark? His mom says, you know what? Mark's not here. Mark's sleeping. Does he leave a message and say, we've picked him? Does he what's the protocol there? What happened?
He must, right? Like he'd have to, I'm sure if I wasn't home and I was at somebody else's place, God forbid, of course, I'm sure he would have told my mother on the phone, hey, listen, we picked him. That's it. And, but it would have changed. Like I'm sure now, and this is a question for you, Ian, because I have no idea. Do they have player cell phones? Like, do they get that from the agents and just call the player cell?
Yeah,
they must.
Usually, yeah, they do. Yeah.
Okay. Cause I guess you're right. No one has do you guys have landlines at your house?
I do. Cause my wife won't let me get rid of it. Yeah.
Okay. And Ian, do you?
No, our kids both have cell phones now. So I'm not
and all everybody in my family has a phone, but every time I call Bell to cancel it, they're like, no, we'll drop the price even more. And it's actually cheaper to keep everything together. Anyway. So I continue to pay for this phone. And the only one person uses the phone. Yeah.
Wally and his complicated relationship with Bell.
And it's never ending. It's never ending. Meth, we have your draft bio, if you will, the scouting report on you at the draft. So I'm going to, so we're, and no, it's really good. We're going to take a look at this. I think it's actually pretty good.
The shit all over Meth party. That's what
no. This is good. Right. So
okay.
Meth
I can't see that.
It's okay. Meth is a stay-at-home defender who makes the safe play. When in doubt, he puts the puck off the glass or will ice it. Meth has made great strides, Methot has made great strides with his offensive game, although this did not show up statistically this season. He's carrying the puck with more confidence. He will use his partner as an outlet, and his breakout passes have greatly improved. He has better awareness on the ice and has started to lug the puck out of his own end when there is some open ice. He is deceptive speed for a big man, and he started to pick his spots and join the rush as a trailer and create some scoring chances by doing so. Methot plays a physical game and uses his strength along the boards to knock opponents off the puck. He rarely gets beat to the outside. That is glowing.
Well, that's pretty good. And I was thinking about that the other day. Thank you for sharing that, Wally. It was actually positive, but that was a surprise for me. I don't know, and I might be wrong here, but in my entire career, this is myself I'm patting myself on the back here. It's probably because of the beer.
It's our show. You can do what you want.
I don't think I've ever been beaten one-on-one. Like I'm talking like
really?
Walked. Yeah, never once. That is a badge of honor for me.
Is that because you never played against Connor McDavid, or?
I played against Connor McDavid, and he never burned me wide either.
Wow, okay, we're gonna find one of those Mario Lemieux goals that
Ian, shut up.
You know what? Can I say the one word that jumped out at me from that scouting report? Lug. He lugs the puck, not effortlessly, not smoothly. No, this guy lugs the puck out of the zone.
It's true. It lugs. It almost sounds like it's exhausting, right? Yeah. Like as he's carrying a piano on his back up the ice. Anyway,
it's glorious.
Yeah, it was also written in 1982, apparently, when you use the term lug.
Yeah. Well, it's changed a bit. Yeah. So now what?
Well, we got lots to talk about. There is one thing, and I thought of you, Meth, today. There's a report. I think Elliot Friedman tweeted about players now. Gary Bettman's about to make the first pick, or he's going to announce the
time. Jeez.
That Buffalo is on the clock to make their first pick. But as we do that, and we expect it to be Owen Power, I'm not sure it's going to be anybody. I'd be shocked if it's anybody else.
It's got to be Owen Power.
Is players more and more complaining about playing in Canada, social media, taxes, quarantine rules, none of this should come as a surprise to you, I'm assuming, right?
No, I mean, it's, it's not it is what it is, right? I think I made this very clear. I can say these things now, thankfully, because I'm not playing anymore. Yep. And I'm sure you guys can both attest to this. When you get off the plane, in South Florida in the middle of January or February, you ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't I, and of course that might be to an extreme, but long story short, I don't know, is Gary making an announcement here, by the way? I don't want to cut in.
Trade alert coming up. But
okay, what's the trade?
But that's the Jake Bean one. So Jake Bean traded from the Hurricanes for a second round
trade.
pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole discussion that we were having with regards to Canadian franchises and the taxing is pretty significant, especially when you're a free agent. And I think nothing compares to playing in a Canadian city when it comes to just having that hockey feel and the notoriety that comes with it. You are much more, of course, recognized playing here. You're more of a celebrity, I believe, if you will. Some players like that. And then you've got the guys that maybe do a little more analyzing around, and when they're picking their 10-team no trades or whatever it may be, you're looking at teams like Nashville, Dallas, the Florida teams, some of the California teams, because it's different, and you've never had the chance to experience playing down there and living in that climate. So those are all things that factor into it. I adored playing in Ottawa, but I feel like that's sort of an exception because I happen to be from here. So it might not be fair to say that, but yeah, it's taxes is a big one. And of course, climate and where you're living and quality of life, those all come into play as well.
What about those endorsements? So do you feel that you get a better chance at, especially if you're Toronto and well, I don't know, maybe Edmonton, but
yeah, you don't get that here. You don't get that playing in Ottawa, but you get that playing in Toronto, you get it playing in Montreal, especially. And it's significant. When you're talking to, hockey equipment companies like Warrior or Bauer or Nike, whatever it is, it's much more lucrative. And I know like Dion had some really big deals playing out there in Toronto. And I remember having a conversation with Dion Phaneuf, and he was saying that even going to appearances, you could do an appearance as a Toronto Maple Leaf and you'd be making anywhere from $5 to $10 grand on the spot just for showing up to a corporate event of some sort. You don't get that here in Ottawa. So those are things to consider, of course. And I'm sure that's the case as well in Montreal and maybe Edmonton, but I doubt it.
Vancouver has a few. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
The next time you guys get Jason Spezza on the show, you got to get
La Maison d'Or.
No, it was a Jubilee, wasn't it? Jubilee.
Maybe. Jewelers? Yeah.
Was it Jubilee? Okay.
Yeah, I think he had a Jubilee endorsement deal.
Yeah, that terrible commercial.
And you'll get you'll get endorsements here, perhaps, depending on. But you need to be a star player, for example, like a Jason Spezza. Like you can't be a Mark Methot in Ottawa and get a lucrative deal like that. It just doesn't work. But yeah, the star players, they're always going to get paid. But the more common players, the average guy, NHL player, much more opportunity to make a little extra on the side in those bigger markets. That's just the way it is.
Thoughts on today's, as we get to Buffalo, and I might as well just get to them talking about trades that they have made and stuff that they have done. What about the Rasmus Ristolainen deal? Anybody shocked by this?
Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, listen, I don't know what you guys felt like. It felt like a day where you kept refreshing Twitter. It almost felt like the day from 2016 when in the span of 20 minutes, remember, Hall for Larson, Subban for Weber, and Stamkos signed within 20 minutes. It felt like today with Rasmus Ristolainen, with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, with Seth Jones, with all these things going on. This is a monumental day in the NHL, and it did. It kickstarted with Buffalo. I personally think Buffalo did really well here. I think the Buffalo Sabres are at the point in they're about to tear this sucker right down. I think Eichel's on the way out. I think Reinhart's on the way out. Ristolainen, they got a first and a second, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's a pretty good return on a guy that's probably played some pretty hard minutes. And, so I don't know, Meth, I like the deal from Buffalo's perspective.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that. And not only that, but I think I love Buffalo's approach. And you kind of touched on it a little, so I'm probably going to repeat myself for you, but they are committing to the rebuild, right? They're not half-assing it. They're not going to make a couple subtle safe plays, maybe stay mediocre. Like they're genuinely going for this year. They're going to tear it down, right down to the foundation and build it back up. And that takes some tough moves, right? Like you might be getting rid of a couple guys that makes you very uncomfortable as a general manager, but you have to have the guts to do it and commit to it. And they're demonstrating that. And here we go. Do they just currently officially pick Owen Power? Yeah.
So Owen Power's been selected first overall. He becomes, I think the third first overall pick drafted out of the NCAA with Rick DiPietro and Joe Murphy. Interesting pick. I mean, they've got Rasmus Dahlin on the blue line. They did obviously move out Ristolainen, and the big now we're still waiting for this shoe to fall, and that's Jack Eichel and what they have to do there. Are we surprised that we haven't been able to get this moved around here already?
Like on Eichel, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? The more you hear people saying that they've been very reluctant to hand over the medical records, like, hey, if I'm trading for a guy that's going to get 10 million a year, like, do you mind if I just take a quick peek at the medical records? Like, just for a minute, like, that's the part of it that's a little bit worrisome. Like, if I'm all in on Jack Eichel, I want to make sure that, because it sounds like it's almost like, and I think it's kind of similar. Peyton Manning had a neck issue at the end of his career, ended up having to get the fusion, and he was great in Denver, but there was a lot of question marks about Peyton Manning. I think there's a lot of question marks about Jack Eichel.
And Peyton Manning had excellent pocket coverage. And unfortunately, this is a different sport. I'm trying to think, the last guy that I remember and happened to play in Buffalo was Patrick Coletta. He had a really bad neck issue, and I think he ended up having to retire. Now, much different player. He would run around all game. But I agree with you. I think if I'm a general manager right now and I'm seeing him available, of course, if he's healthy, he's a top 10 player, arguably in the NHL. He's an elite offensive talent. But Ian, I'm with you, man. Like, I don't know that I would kind of sell the farm to pick him up if there's all that risk involved. And you're talking about, some shady business going on with medical records. I mean, why would you even go near that at this point? It's just not worth it, which is unfortunate because really, I'd love to see him excel on a good team to see what he really can do. Because I can remember playing against him, and just so he's got that upright style of play, and he's got that shifty little maneuvering that he does with the puck. Very hard to play against. It's unfortunate. I hope for him and his sake that it works out well, but I don't think I would touch him right now, not with that medical history.
But he wants out. You've got, do you not have to move him?
Well, you got to move him, but you're certainly not going to rush. And I've heard that they're asking for some ridiculous return, which is understandable, of course. Sure. But I mean, I don't know. Who are the takers out there? I'm not an insider. I have no idea who's interested in him. I'm sure there's been some teams floated around, but I don't even know where to begin on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, the two teams that you often hear the most associated with Jack Eichel are the New York Rangers for obvious reasons, because I think a lot of people think the kid wants to go to the spotlight, the Big Apple. And then the other one that I think is interesting is the Minnesota Wild, because the Wild got rid of Suter and Parise. The thought is maybe they could go in on Eichel, but they got a lot of dead money that they got to pay out to those guys in a couple of years. I don't know if they can afford it, but those are the teams. And then the dark horse, everyone says never sleep on the Vegas Golden Knights, that they'll figure out a way to make it work. And they've gone big game hunting every year, right? They've gotten Pacioretty, Stone,
Pietrangelo.
Pietrangelo. Yeah. So they've always found a way to make these things happen, but I just don't see it happening with the cap, but you never know.
And we found out in the playoffs, they are thin down the middle. Yeah. Right. And as soon as Chandler Stevenson went out, they just didn't seem to have the right mix of players down the middle that continue to win in the playoffs. Ron Francis makes the first pick in Seattle Kraken history. Of course, as always, they're at the Space Needle. I think they live there because their draft office tonight is in the War Room, is in the Space Needle. I
wanted to add to that, Wally. I think it was it Craig Button that said that he didn't believe any of the players are NHL ready for next season. Did you guys see that little headline? Yeah, I completely disagree. Only with regards to Owen Power. I had the chance, and I'm only talking about him because he was just picked. I watched him at the Worlds very attentively. He's a 6'6" mutant who skates very well, and he's physically matured very well too. I could see him being an impact player right away, and I'm just being honest with you. But other than that, I would agree with that list. I'm only asking because I wasn't sure if you guys had seen that or not.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of people throw that out, Wally, saying, because usually the top 2 or 3 picks, like Lafreniere played last year, Stützle played last year. Usually you get 2 or 3 guys that end up playing. But Wally, I've seen a lot of lists of people saying, I wouldn't be shocked if nobody starts the season in the NHL this year.
Matty Beniers from Michigan, as Michigan takes picks 1 and 2, goes to Seattle in their first ever draft pick. But it is interesting. I watched Owen Power, but we always talk about defensemen being so young and putting them into the league at 18, 19, 20. Perhaps they're not ready. I understand, Matthew, you saw him, and he was very good at the Worlds. Yeah. But can we stop rushing players into the league?
Right. Well, let me say this. I
Yeah.
saw him and I saw JBD, right? I saw
Yep.
both of them. And I mean, it wasn't even close, to be honest with you. Power didn't really get a chance in that first game. They didn't play him very much. And they lost to Latvia, I believe. And then as the tournament progressed, we saw the progression in his ice time where the coaching staff was getting more confident with him. And he was great. Like he looked like an NHL hockey player, and he got so confident with the puck, man. So again, I don't want to beat down on this topic too long. I know we're already on pick 3, but from what I've seen with Owen Power, I agree. Typically it takes longer, but we're at a different era now where we're seeing all these young players come into the league immediately almost. And be impact players. It isn't like it was in the early 2000s. It's a lot different now.
No, the game is completely younger. And the issue is the reaction, if you're a Buffalo Sabre fan, of not having that first overall pick in the lineup, right? That's another issue. Sure. They've got to try and appease fan bases. And they're like, well, he's done everything. He's played in World Championship. Put him in the lineup.
But I think pick any fan base in hockey, Ottawa's, Vancouver's. If you think you're angry, you haven't met a Sabres fan. Like, honestly, like these people have been through so much.
10 years.
10 years since making the playoffs. They've never won the Stanley Cup. They feel like they got robbed of a Stanley Cup with Brett Hull's foot in the crease. And I think the one thing I look at this team now with them taking Owen Power tonight, I think with Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power, if you put these guys on 2 separate pairings, that's 50 minutes a night you've gotten taken care of. If they both play 25 minutes a night. And Wally, you covered that 07 Cup with me. Anaheim won that cup because they had Niedermayer and Pronger out virtually all night long.
Yeah,
I think that boy, Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power in 3 years from now could do it. And look at, it's a young man's game. And
hang on.
McCarr just rolled in, and like, you can be a young defenseman and be good, but you kind of got to be like a Cale Makar or a Quinn Hughes to do it.
Agreed.
All right, but can we not compare them to Niedermayer and Pronger, who are in the Hall of Fame? Niedermayer, right? Like, can we just take it down just a little here?
Okay, so Methot, we'll compare them to who? Methot and Patrick Wirkosh, Methot and
Dion Phaneuf. They were different pairings.
Okay, yeah, that's right. They were different pairings.
There you go. By the way,
what's the graphic that Craig has up right now? What is that?
So we're following along. This is the live draft tracker.
Oh, I can't see it. It's too small. All right.
Okay. But so just so you know, we've got someone in Japan helping out, someone at the cottage is helping out, and Craig are all built, like they built this great show. So we are just here to try and keep it on the rails.
They're doing a great job. They're doing a great job.
So we will continue to show you all the live draft tracking. And now we have Anaheim on the clock, but I want to just say, are either one of you surprised as Carey Price underwent knee surgery today? He's going to be back apparently in time for the start of the season, that the Seattle Kraken did not pick Carey Price. Mendes?
Do you guys feel like this was a little shady? Like Carey Price gets, Carey Price is put on, or he's exposed in the expansion draft.
Yep.
The day after he's put on the expansion draft exposure list, comes the story he might need hip and knee surgery.
I said the same thing.
He doesn't get claimed, and then today he's had successful surgery, should be ready for opening night.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, shady.
Ian, it's funny because I'm shocked that this hasn't really been much of a story. I mean, and I'm talking about Carey Price just allegedly being all of a sudden incredibly banged up, and only announced a day or two after the fact. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I thought that was kind of odd. But I mean, I can appreciate that. And you know who else made a little comment was Killorn. Killorn was on a podcast talking about how he really wanted no part of leaving Tampa. And I'm thinking like, well, if you're Seattle, of course, I know Gord right now is probably the no-brainer that you would pick. But if you're Seattle, you're not going to go grab a guy that's made it public that he doesn't want to go there, right? Am I wrong?
Right. No, I'm totally with you. Like Jason Spezza said, if you put me on waivers, I'm retiring. Or if you claim me, right? Like
I love it. I think it's great.
So shady.
I'm going to do it. It is very shady. Yeah.
I want to do a trivia question right now. We're going to hand out a Wally and Methot t-shirt and mug to the person who correctly can answer this question, brought to you by BEI, and use the Wally and Methot hashtag on Twitter. Which Ottawa Senators draft pick has played the most games in the NHL in their career? So they didn't have to necessarily play them all with Ottawa, just whoever was drafted by Ottawa who played the most games. So send that to Twitter using the Wally and Methot hashtag. We got trivia, Mendes. You can enter. We'll try to get you a t-shirt.
How am I not even getting a t-shirt for participating in this?
Oh, you know what? Hold on. On Gong Show today, gongshow.com are the new Wally Methot merch. I will get you a sweatshirt.
Yeah, and they make some good stuff. All our new hats and whatnot. So we're really happy to be on board with them. My parents, they just sent me a weird text, Wally and Ian. They're watching the show. I'm assuming this was my mother, because my mom and dad share the same.
Did she use a landline?
No. Yeah. So from the Ottawa Valley, I got a text watching. What did you do with the kids? So my reply was, I gave them the keys to the car and they left and drove to Wonderland. I'm like, they're sleeping upstairs. What do you think they're doing?
Well, do you have a baby monitor? Should we?
I don't know. I just got a cramp in my leg. Hang on.
What? We haven't even gotten to the third pick yet. By the way, Anaheim about to make the third pick. They haven't had a winning season since the 27-18 season. They were 30th in the league last year, 6 points up on Buffalo. Matthew, going to be okay?
Oh, nope.
As Bob Murray takes to the podium.
Oh my God.
Did he just leave a live show because he's cramping up?
Yeah.
My hamstring.
Oh. So I don't even know what to do anymore. The Anaheim Ducks have taken from Carp Mason McTavish, who I had heard earlier on they may look to select him. He's from the Ottawa Valley, an Ottawa Valley Titan when he played here. His dad Dale played for Calgary. He ended up going to Europe for a long career. Good for him. I mean, Matthew would know him from playing at the U18s. We saw him just almost dominate, right? And you know what? Good for him. Like his draft stock skyrocketed, I think, after the U18s.
Yeah, he's relentless, and I saw some comparisons of him with Ryan O'Reilly and players like him, but I have a hard time seeing that. I mean, I to a degree, I guess I suppose there are similarities, but he's got more of a chip on his shoulder. Like this kid will fight you, if you bother him, you know what I mean? And not only that, but he's incredibly competitive. So I am not even remotely surprised that he went, a lot earlier. So good for him. I mean, he deserved it. He played his heart out at that U18 in Texas and had a fantastic tournament. And that's all it takes, man. You have a couple good games like that and you impress the right people, they're going to grab you.
And Wally, you used to cover a lot of these skates at the Sensplex in the summer, and Matthew would have participated in them. There's a great story from a couple of years ago where Mason McTavish, either he was 16 or 17 at the time, but he's skating with the Ottawa group, and he went like right after Claude Giroux. And
heard that, yeah.
And they're going like this, and the kid's like 16 or 17, and he doesn't back down. And it's like, you know what? Exactly what you said. The Ryan O'Reilly compete factor. There's a lot of people who think Mason McTavish will be the best two-way center or maybe even best two-way forward to come out of this draft. And I know there's a lot of Ottawa fans like just hoping and praying would he fall to 10. I never thought it was a possibility. I thought he was going to go in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the other thing about him being on the ice, Calvin DeHaan, who's a Chicago Blackhawk but also lives in Carp, they train together with Mason McTavish, and he's like, I had to tell like Mason, like something, you got to get off the ice and got to go. You can't always be on the ice or be in the gym. Like, take a break every once in a while. But that guy is a machine. Like, he wants obviously to be the best. The other issue was he would never stop shooting pucks. Like at the end of a drill, he'd always be shooting pucks. And the coach was like, Mason, like, I need you to just get in line and settle down here. So
that annoyance reminds me so much of Chris Neal. Like Nealer was like that. I know I've said this before. Nealer always had to be at the front of the line in practice. Like it didn't matter what it was. He's right at the front. And so those are the kind of guys though, that they just have a little thing in them that, it's that motivation that they have. And they're highly self-motivated players and they tend to have very long, successful careers. So good for him. And to boot, he gets to go in California now, and Anaheim is beautiful. He'll love it there, I'm sure. Good for him.
I think he has a chance to be like a star, right? Like he just has that look and personality of, almost like an Igor Sokolov, in a sense of, I think that he will end up becoming one of those guys that everybody just gravitates towards. He's really well liked from everything I've heard of. So good for Mason McTavish to go 3rd overall. That puts New Jersey on the clock. New Jersey, do they take another Hughes? Huh?
Yeah, like I'm never a believer of you draft guys based on, oh, you got a sibling. Although I guess we saw it play out in Chicago. They went and traded for Seth Jones's brother, and then they traded for him, right?
Yep.
But in terms of trading, specifically drafting a guy for that reason, like, boy, it's going to be fascinating. But this is exactly where Hughes could potentially go, right? It's not like the Devils are reaching if they draft Hughes here. So, boy, I don't know. But New Jersey is a funny team to me because they've had 2 first overall picks in the last few years in Hughes and Nico Hischier. And you would think that would be enough to solidify them as a let's go, we're ready playoff team. And yet you're like, I don't know. I don't know what they are. And maybe they're in the same boat as Ottawa, where they've got some nice pieces, but it all has to come together. So I absolutely think they could take Hughes here because I still think that they need a couple of pieces to be competitive.
Agreed.
Well, they haven't made the playoffs in 3 straight years. I don't like their blue line that much. Is he the answer? Maybe, but Brant Clark, also another Ottawa kid who's also depending on which list you look at, obviously he's a top 5 picker regarded. So interesting to see if they now. The one thing about the Hughes though, 3 first-round draft picks from the same family, like that is wild.
That's
to me.
Insane. I know. I know.
There's only 2 others that have had that happen in the first round. The Sutter family, where they've had 4 first-round picks, and the Stahl family. Eric went 2nd, Jordan went 2nd, Mark went 12th. That's phenomenal. I can't imagine raising a family like that, what the time commitment and all that stuff would be.
Yeah. So I guess Bob McKenzie here, as we're on, Bob McKenzie is going full Frank Saravelli from the expansion draft.
No, is he?
He's leaking everything out just in advance. And it looks like Hughes to New Jersey is a done deal, according to Bob McKenzie.
Wow. Here comes the pick. So I reached out to Bob today. I was like, I'm going to shoot my shot. I even sent it to him in a text. I'm like, most people try and shoot. Yeah. And I said, is there any chance, since you're not doing a draft, you'd like to come on our show? And he's like,
no chance.
I am enjoying a Friday night with my wife and some wine. Nice try, Wally. I'm like, okay, I appreciate it.
I don't think he's enjoying some quiet time because he's busting open every draft pick before it happens.
He can't help it. He can't help himself. Yeah.
I feel like sending him a text.
A quick question to you guys, and Wally, especially because you worked at TSN, you worked in the network and that kind of thing. Were you guys agitated that the expansion draft got leaked out, or you fine with it? Like I could see both sides of it. I really could, but I'm just curious if you guys felt like, I wish it didn't come out that way.
Meth?
I'm indifferent. Like I can understand. So from a business standpoint, if you're the NHL, you obviously don't want this stuff leaked, I would think, right? You want to bring in as many eyeballs as humanly possible, for the spectacle, if you will, at nighttime. But I mean, and I saw some people, they were mad at Saravelli for posting some of that stuff. I mean, he pretty much broke the draft.
Yeah.
But it's not his fault. And I made that pretty clear in a comment I made on Twitter, where I was like, this is just front office guys, not just front office, but oftentimes, we all know GMs, assistant GMs will talk to insiders and kind of share information a little bit. And that's sort of the part of the process. And it's not exclusive to the NHL. It happens in other sports. But did it bother me? Yeah, a little bit. It did, because it just kind of ruined the whole thing. I mean, there's no anticipation anymore for the show. In fact, I didn't even watch it. There's proof. Like, I'm an ex-player. I'm in the business. And I didn't even really pay much attention to the draft itself because I knew all the picks at that point. So I guess I kind of was irritated, but I don't blame the insiders. They're just doing their jobs.
Now, when you got claimed by Vegas in 2017, I'm assuming it wasn't your mom who told you on a landline, but how did you find out? Did you find out in advance?
Yeah, I did. They called me. So I believe they had to submit their list just like this year at 10 o'clock in the morning, the day of. And I believe McCrimmon, the assistant GM, called me around noon. I want to say, I could be wrong, but I feel like he called me around noon that day, or maybe a little earlier, and let me know. So I had a good idea that day, and I didn't tell anybody. So I think it really just comes down to either it's the agents, maybe, but even them, are they privy to this info? So they're not. So it's got to be that it's the front office guys, right? Like somebody in there saying something.
If you're getting called, then there could be the players telling Frank, right? Like you already knew hours before.
No, well, okay, I'm not going to argue with that because I'm sure it's entirely possible.
No, I'm not blaming all the players. I'm just saying that's another option, and it's also front office people.
But how much? But he leaked so much. Like,
I know it was awesome.
It was almost every pick. Yeah, so I'm saying some dummy in the office probably said something, and you see it online. Like today, for example, an insider came back online. I won't even name the name because again, I have nothing against these guys. I like them. But like he came on Twitter and was an apologist for a draft. So there was a big trade that had happened between two teams, and he came on after breaking it and kind of backed the one side that apparently was getting a lot of flack for making that deal. And he came on and sort of said, no, guys, it's a fair trade, this and that. So that's a prime example of the hustle that is happening right in front of you. GMs and insiders share information, and then they have each other's backs when they need it. And that's how it works.
I will say, being in the industry, I loved every second of it, and I full marks to Frank Cervelli because it was like, nobody complains when Adrian Wojnarowski breaks all the basketball trades, right? And so all of a sudden now in the NHL, we're now mad in our small little world that all the trades got leaked or all the picks got leaked.
This is different though because we're talking draft picks. Trades are one thing. No, but it is though because listen.
Okay, then hold on.
All the NHL had to do was say, listen, submit your lists at 5 p.m. or some bullshit like that.
Right.
Instead, you've got 10 hours roughly or whatever it was until the draft starts. Obviously, everything's going to get leaked out within that time frame, and it ruined it.
I completely agree. But that's on the NHL. That's the NHL completely messed this up. All they had to say was, if anything gets out, we're fining all of you or whatever it is. So
I agree.
It was the NHL who Vegas submitted the list, Seattle submitted the list, and the NHL got it. The only issue is if Seattle was still trying to negotiate trades around the pick and saying who you could pick and who you couldn't. So that's how the stuff gets leaked out, right? Anyway, I'm full marks to everybody who went and did their job because that's exactly what you want them to do.
Right.
There is no, please don't ruin the draft for everybody. That's his job, and he's trying to make a living.
No, we agree. Mendes, what's your angle on this then?
Yeah, it's a great debate. Look, it's no different than, if you're on Twitter and you're watching whatever show and Breaking Bad back in the day and you didn't want a spoiler, then you would stay off social media, right? Like you could easily stay off social media. Like if you were that angry, just stay off. If you really wanted to tune in at 8:00 and see the octopus draft the guy from Detroit, then you could have done that. And you could have done it.
Ian, what if like most people, I'm severely addicted to Twitter and I can't help it? Then what? Right?
But then, I guess. But then that's the world you live in.
You could have muted a whole bunch of insiders, or I don't,
the Columbus Blue Jackets are making the 5th overall pick. John Davidson is making the call. We stand by and wait him to make the announcement. They've got 3 first-round picks, by the way.
Rick Nash is there on the stage.
There's your buddy, Rick Nash.
Good dude right there. Yeah. Silent assassin. Very quiet guy, but a good dude.
They have 3 picks. 3 picks. Oh, he's not making. So 3 picks in the first round. They also had they made the deal for Nick Foligno and, of course, David Savard with Tampa. So they get the 5th, 25th, and 30th pick. They don't have a very good drafting record. 4 first-round picks. They've had 2 first-round picks in the last 4 drafts as they try to move pieces in and out. And they made the deal to try to go with Matt Duchene and whatnot. I just think that they have struggled to make the right calls in the draft.
Yeah, and it's funny they because also, sorry, Ian, go ahead.
No, I apologize. Don't they also get Chicago's pick this year? No, or is that next year?
No, I think it's next year.
They get next year Chicago the pick for Seth Jones. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, they have 3 first. Oh, unless it's I don't think they have 4 now, do they? Oh, then maybe I missed it. But I only know them. I have 3, so maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're right. It's next year where it's top 2 protected. But you're right. I mean, Matthew played in Columbus, and it's an awesome city. It really is. And that great. Nationwide arena district is great. So why can't they hang on to Seth Jones, Patrick Laine, Dubois?
I don't know.
Nash.
Someone made a comment on that. And that's an excellent question, Ian, because Kent Johnson here, by the way, they just picked.
Yeah, but how about Michigan? That's 3 picks in the top 5.
Yeah, that's impressive. With regards to Columbus, it's strange because, I sent out a post there. I think it was it Arpon that I retweeted, and I made a little mention about Columbus and how good the city is. I don't get it. I never wanted to leave there. I mean, of course, I'm ecstatic that I ended up in Ottawa, but I mean, I was very content playing there, and I had a blast. The city's great. The downtown area is awesome, as you mentioned there, Ian, with that nationwide arena district location. They have a practice rink in the building, which, by the way, players love. There's nothing worse in the middle of winter when you got to drive, get dressed in Canada at the CTC, and then drive all the way to the Sensplex, things like that. And a lot of teams do that. We did that in Dallas as well. They've got a great setup. I can't understand for the life of me why players want to get out of there. I don't know if it's coaching or there's something else going on, or maybe we're overthinking it. But I mean, they've got such a fantastic setup there, and the fan base. I mean, you could be a losing team and they're still rolling in there and supporting you. So it's strange. I don't have an answer, but I lived across the street with 5 other guys, roughly all my age when I got there. It was basically like a dorm, but a really nice condo complex. And we were all playing Call of Duty. All our doors were open all the time. We were running back and forth from room to room. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah. And I always say if my dream for Ottawa and LeBreton Flats was, I wish they could take the arena district in Columbus, copy it, and plop it down on LeBreton.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what we need. I really encourage people, if you're able to get, when travel's open, Columbus is an underrated, fun city, great city to watch a hockey game in.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Did you do the All-Star game, Mendes, that year?
No, I didn't.
I got to do the All-Star game, and it was outstanding. Like, that's how you got to understand how great it was just to be in that city. You could feel the vibe. I've done playoff series with Pittsburgh there as well. Like Matt, I agree with you. I really enjoy walking around that downtown area, and they've only improved it.
Wally? Do you remember any of the watering holes you hit up by any chance? I know it's a long shot here. I'm curious.
No.
Right.
But
I guess better not sharing that information.
But it was the All-Star game. So I remember one of those was Alex Ovechkin and I were the same, and he's just getting hammered. And I can always remember just his entourage around him. And I wish I remember, that was a really nice bar. So it couldn't have been that far from the hotel.
Yeah, there's a bunch in the area. They're great.
It was a nice, classy, anyway.
Yeah, and they have right by the rink also, they have these huge outdoor patios. So like when May would roll around and you're still in town, like you hit one of those spots up and it's all college students and other people, like all walks of life. Really, really cool scene. And to Ian's point, that's what we would need here in Ottawa. Like get out of Canada and go downtown and feed all those businesses, build up a nice area. I know it's a lot easier said than done, of course, but I'm in that camp. Like get out of there and get downtown because they're really missing out, and you're attracting a lot of fans from across the river as well on the Quebec side. It's win-win for everybody.
By the way, Detroit now on the clock. They have the 6th overall pick in this draft. They made an interesting trade this week, or I guess yesterday, and that's getting Alex Nedeljkovic from Carolina. Is anybody else surprised by this? They took Jonathan Bernier in a 3rd-round pick back. There's no one that really saw this coming that I can.
Well,
that's at least admitted
surprised? Are you saying surprised that they got rid of Nedeljkovic? Or
he's a Calder,
really good goaltender.
He's a Calder finalist.
I know.
I understand there's cap issues and I get it, but if you've got to start, I don't know. To me, he's a starting goaltender. Don't you have to find a way to keep him?
Ian,
what am I missing?
Here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that was just a huge coup from Steve Yzerman, and I've seen the comparison that this is exactly what he did with Ottawa years ago when he got Ben Bishop for Corey Conacher and a second, fourth. I think it might have been a 4th round.
Might have 4th, yeah.
But basically, he's got himself a potential number 1 goalie for like Steve Yzerman. Like this is what I would say if I'm a general manager. And I see my phone and the call display comes up and it's S. Yzerman, I'm letting that go to voicemail. This guy is playing 3D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Like I'm very leery of him and Joe Sakic because I think it's really cool. Those guys were 2 of the best players in the 90s. And now they've automatically become two of the best general managers. I feel like anytime I would do something with them, they would fleece me. So I'm staying away.
Now,
I'm staying away from those guys.
That being said, Detroit's missed the playoffs for 5 straight years. In 2020, they've drafted 12 players, 2019, 11 players. They got 11 picks this year. They've done they're kind of like Ottawa, where they've done an awful lot of work to put a lot of players in their system, right? 2020, they had 4 players in the top 55 and 4 in the top 60 in 2019. They've done a lot of work to try and rebuild that with Steve Yzerman. I'd like to see what they're going to be able to do with this moving forward, because they certainly seem to now be on the right track. It seems weird for Detroit not to be in the postseason.
Yeah. When we were growing up, it was like they were an automatic playoff team every year for like 2 decades, right? But I like the approach they've taken there because they're growing it slowly. The Cider kid is supposed to be unbelievable on defense. I think Zadina will probably grow into something. They're going to, unless Bob McKenzie's already tweeted it out here. The Edvinson kid is supposed to be potentially available. Like, they're going to be really good. Like, if I'm Ottawa and I'm looking at, I think Ottawa's going to be better than Detroit and Buffalo this year. But it's going to be really interesting 2 years from now when both of those other programs catch up to where Ottawa is now. Like, this is going to be, the Atlantic Division is going to flip at some point in the next 3 years.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, I don't think this is really that contentious. Is Ottawa willing to spend to keep up? Like, right now they look great, right? They've got a great amount of draft picks coming in, some studs on that back end and up front, but I mean, if you can't hang on to any of these guys and all you're doing is grooming them up and then they're gone, I mean, what good does that do? So that, to your point, Ian, in 2 to 3 years, I agree. Unless we're willing to kind of be competitive with cap space here and spend it, it's going to be very difficult to keep pace.
Detroit about to make the pick. Bob McKenzie thinks it's Simon Edvinson. So we'll just say it's going to be the Swedish player. Steve Yzerman certainly finds a way to make things happen. But did you think he would ever be a good GM when he was, I guess, playing? Like, it's interesting that there's, I guess, those stoic guys like Joe Sakic and him have been able to become these really good, smart defense general managers. Yeah, it's impressive. And to make that transition from player to front office and excel at it. And I mean, you need some good tutelage from some good people around you. And of course, I'm sure they weren't lacking that. They were surrounded by some good hockey people, and that's what it is. And they have the mind for it. So I don't think I'm all that surprised. I'm actually more surprised Sakic. Yzerman always kind of struck me for that elusive, sneaky, smart, clever guy. And of course, I'm sure Joe is an incredibly intelligent human being, but I just never pictured him being a front office type of guy. So good for them, though. They're doing a great job. Okay, so Mendes, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What superstar do we think in today's game will make a good GM?
The automatic one is Crosby, right? Like, because it just feels like but I feel like that's too easy. That's too easy, maybe. But he's one of those guys that just seems to soak in every aspect of the game. He actually truly loves the game. Like, Mario Lemieux, I don't think ever loved the game. Like, Mario was just one of these guys like, I just happen to be really good at something, and I guess I'll do this. But I don't think he loved it. Like, Sid loves it. And I could see him. I could see him wanting to do something like that. You know who else I think of immediately when we're talking about this is Jason Spezza. Oh yeah. I mean, for me, I almost get the idea right now that he's already lining something up. Like, I could see him getting into a role right now. Because to your point, Ian, you made an excellent point as far as that passion. I mean, this guy, he just lives and breathes the game. Like, he is a legitimate hockey fan, right? So, and he's current. So all these guys coming out of the league, I mean, a player like Jason, who happens to be a little older, he's very smart. He's got a good pulse on the league right now and the personnel around the NHL. That would be a sneaky good hire by any team that he'd be willing to take on. By the way, is the name of the bar in Columbus 16-bit? Is the arcade bar? No, that wouldn't have been around then. No. Got it. Well, then someone sorry, I don't know where to go with this. Yeah, I have no idea. No, that's okay. I always like to bring the show to a grinding halt as quick as I can. I've done that in a few press conferences with coaches. Be like, no, like, okay, time to go. Boy. San Jose on the clock with the 7th overall pick. They've only put 50 wins together in the last
2 seasons, 126 games. They have missed the playoffs 2 straight years. Before that, the last time they missed the playoffs 2 straight was in the 90s. So, but they've got some big contracts, right? Carlson, $11.5 million for the next 6 seasons. Burns, $8 million the next 4. Couture, $8 million the next 6. What do you do in San Jose to get this turned around? They need someone to score goals. They were 25th in goals for last year, 27th the year before that.
Not to mention, like, Evander Kane is there, right? They got some prohibitive, restrictive contract. What's happened in San Jose is what I think a lot of people have been waiting. Every year we're like, this is the year Washington is not going to be good, or this is the year that Pittsburgh is not going to be good. It hasn't happened to any of them, but it happened to San Jose like 2 years ago. And now you're stuck in cap jail where I don't know what you do, because I think when you have Brett Burns, Erik Karlsson, Logan Couture, Vander Kane, Thomas Hertl, all these guys in your system, you kind of have to be a playoff team or go for it, right? You can't necessarily pitch a rebuild. But my thing is, I wonder if they can move Brent Burns. I think that's the guy. You can maybe move him. You'd have to eat some salary and start some sort of mini rebuild. And I still think Erik Karlsson's got some game in him. Probably the $11.5 million is probably a touch high, but he's got some game in him there. I just don't know what you do if you're San Jose, because look at Seattle's the best example of even a team with no salary on the books was not taking big ticket contracts this summer.
Yeah. And I think for Erik, this is a big summer. Like I don't know what I've talked to him a couple times, but we usually don't talk about hockey. It's just golf or whatever else is going on. But, for me, I think with him, and we all know about his ankle injuries in the past, or rather the Achilles, and people were worried that would set him back. I think for him right now, he's staying down there. He's probably training with the right guys. He's still in San Jose. He hasn't come back home yet. He mentioned that he was going to come back maybe for a little bit in August, but I think for him, the summer's huge. He needs to be, if his training's serious, he's taking it seriously, and he's making some strides there. You'll probably see a much different player in the fall, but you just don't know, right? And it comes down to what your motivation is and what you're willing to put in.
Quickly, I want to give away some more prizes. By the way, Eric B90, you are our first winner. Marian Hossa has played the most games of any Ottawa Senator draft pick, over 1,300, 1,309 to be exact, 12th overall pick in 1997. Next question up, another T-shirt, another mug. How many Sens draft picks have played 1,000 NHL games? Now, you don't have to name them all, but you've got to tell me the number. So how many Sens draft picks have played 1,000 NHL games? And I don't let Mendes play this one because he always knows the answers to all these. So you are out.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's fair. Also, by the way, we're still waiting for the Ottawa pick. It's still at number 10. They have not moved it yet. So we still have, after San Jose, it'll be LA and Arizona before Ottawa. Do we still think, because there is a goalie, or two, if you will, still on the clock, that Ottawa doesn't move?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. I don't.
Yeah, it's tough, because right now, as I'm looking at it now, technically Brent Clark is on the board. Dylan Guenther, who is supposed to be a pretty highly thought of scoring winger, is on the board. William Eklund is on the board, and then there's 3 picks right there, and then Ottawa is sitting in the next spot with potentially with a goaltender. So I think Ottawa's pretty happy, I would think, with the way that this has played itself out. Again, I don't know, like if Brent Clark is sitting there as a defenseman, I personally think that they're fine on the back end with young guys, but
never have enough.
I would snag him if he's available for sure. I think he's incredibly talented. Have you guys seen him skate? He's a really nice skater too. So I don't know. I think I'm surprised he's still available. Wasn't he projected top 5?
There's a lot of people that thought he was going top 5 or 6. Yeah.
So I mean, and that's the funny thing about the draft, right? So we'll see. I really do. I would think it'd be a nice little storyline for Ottawa. I know we're not looking for that, but I mean, for me, if he's available, snag him.
I think LA ends up taking him
right now,
as San Jose just picked William Eklund with their pick from the Swedish Hockey League, Djurgården. LA needs a defenseman, and so this will be interesting if they get to 8. And I think, well, I'll let Bob probably tell me who they're going to take, but I can see LA taking Brant Clark in at number 8. So LA on the board, they've got big deals, right? Doughty's got 6 more years at 11 million. Kopitar 10 million for 3 more years. What do they like? They've missed the playoffs 3 straight years, 5 of the last 7, all since they won the cup in 14. What do you do in LA? I don't know what they're trying to get done here.
But there's another potential team, I guess, that could be in the Jack Eichel sweepstakes. Maybe like they got the pieces, they got the Byfields, and they got Turcotte and some of these other guys. But and this goes back to a point Meth made like half an hour ago about being in a non-Canadian market. Like, what's the real pressure on the LA Kings? Like, you've just won 2 Stanley Cups in the last 8-9 years.
Yeah.
If you go through 5 or 6 years, you're just okay. Like, are people going to be lighting up the phones and calling into the ESPN radio in LA?
No,
complaining? I don't think so. Like,
no.
So I think you could probably afford to be, I don't know, a little bit more patient in those types of markets. And I don't know, but I guess if you have Doughty and Kopitar, I let them decide if they want to stay. You've earned the right to stay. But if it's like a Duncan Keith and you're like, hey, maybe it behooves us to move on and it's cool and we can all move along like adults, then do that too, right? Like, yeah. But man, I don't know what you do there either. It's a little bit like San Jose, but just not as bad with fewer contracts.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you both. LA's on the clock for another 3 minutes. I'm going to try and fit this in. It's a somewhat of a trivia question. The last 4 overall picks: Alexis Lafreniere, Jack Hughes, Rasmus Dahlin, Nico Hischier. Okay. Would you still make them as the first overall picks in those drafts? Now, I can give you the guys who went after, like Alexis Lafreniere. There was also Byfield, Stützle, even Jake Sanderson. Do you still take Lafreniere first overall?
Oh, I hate that question. Ian, what would you? I mean, I know he struggled big time at the start of the year, right? And didn't his play pick up there toward the end? I don't know. I don't even know his numbers. I could Google it like everybody else at home, but I know he's incredibly talented, and I still remember his highlight reel from the Q. I mean, that kid can play, so I wouldn't write him off just yet. I think he had a bit of a tough go there at the beginning, but he'll probably find his game. And yeah, you could make an argument that Stützle was one of those guys you could grab. Byfield played in the A, didn't he, for the most part last year? So I don't know that I would change that. I mean, I think I'd still want to put my money on him and hope that in the long run he'll find his game and work out. Yeah,
it's a tough one, right? The most recent draft is probably the hardest one to redraft, just because we don't have a ton of data on all those guys. But like you go back to the one with Rasmus Dahlin, where it went Rasmus Dahlin, Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi, Brady Tkachuk. In kind of, that's an interesting one. Like, would Tkachuk go first? I mean, Svechnikov's really good too. Like, sometimes we forget how good Svechnikov is, but I mean, that's one where you would legitimately you could reverse that list, right? Like from 4 back down to 1 and just make and it wouldn't look odd if you look back on it, right? Like, it would kind of make sense. So there's a big celebration.
I know. So I'm going to Brant Clark from Ottawa has now been picked by the Los Angeles Kings at the 8th overall pick. And that's, I mean, fantastic for him. That kid can flat out play.
Does it look like he's happy that he went to Los Angeles?
I think he's okay with that. Yeah.
He's very happy.
And good for like, I mean, how do you not cheer for Brant Clark? If you've known him in around this Ottawa area, he's been a great player, and he's been a really good just to be around. Also, he and Mason McTavish, good friends. It's so good to see them both. And then they both played and won gold this year at the U18s. Meth, I know you watched a bit of that stuff. You can just see the skill level he has and the mobility he's got.
Yeah. He's going to be I think he'll be a special player. He looks very confident, right? Like even in the interview that we had done, like just a confident guy, very assertive. So I'm excited. They're showing some clips of him now, but he'll be a good player and a lot of opportunity, right? I think for me, if you're a young guy, and of course you don't want to get rushed, you guys, we all know the horror stories of rushing players too quickly sometimes, but a lot of opportunity for him to go in there and make some noise. Maybe not next season, maybe he needs another year, but he'll be ready to go at least by year 2.
Yeah. And I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say his brother, Graham Clark, if you guys don't remember, played for the Ottawa 67s. He's the 3rd round pick of the Devils in 2019. So good for the family to two boys in the NHL is a phenomenal feat and all into itself. Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, like now I'm wondering, like, Arizona's on the clock, and this is not a pick that they had probably planned for, because remember, they're the ones who were supposed to pick at 11. And it was forfeited. So
do you remember that great quote, by the way, from the Blackhawks?
Director of scouting. He said something along the lines of, I can tell you that forfeiture is certainly going in the top 11, which I thought was a great
good
quote.
for him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I look at this and I say to myself, this is a potential. This was always going to be a swing spot, because this is the last spot where the top 9 skaters were going to go. So this is where Dylan Guenther was supposed to go. If he doesn't go and Arizona takes a goaltender here or goes off the board, because if I was going to pick one organization that's going to pick some guy that you've never heard of, it's the Arizona Coyotes. Like, they could have 100% go off the board. So if you're Ottawa, what do you do if Dylan Guenther, who a lot of people thought were going in the top 5, is sitting there at 10? He's not a center, but he's a high-end winger.
He's a right winger. Yeah. Okay, so, but on the other side of that, if you are Pierre Dorian and you want one of those two, and I don't know that they want a goalie, so but I'm just grasping at straws here. If they want one of those two guys, do they trade down a couple of spots? Yeah, I can see our show never ending.
Run the credits from the never-ending story over this thing, but I do think that if Ottawa, either it's a goalie or if they want one of those Chaz Lucius, Cole Sillinger type of guys, and they feel like they can get that guy at 13, then why wouldn't you slide back? But if this is going to be this is actually legitimately going to be interesting the next 5 or 10 minutes here.
I just want them to take Chaz Lucius so we can go like, and all that Chaz, or right, like
Chaz hands.
Yeah, Chaz. Like there's so many different things. Yeah,
Chaz hands.
Everybody just does this.
Yeah. Goal selling. Chaz hands.
I think it would be good, but I don't know what they're like. That's an interesting thing. This has gone very well for the Ottawa Senators and Pierre Dorian. Regardless, either you get a high talented right winger, or you're taking a goalie, or if you continue on the lines of the we want to stay with continuing to draft players whose dads played in the NHL, you take Cole Sillinger.
Yeah, they've certainly not been shy about that route, right? Where you take the guy whose dad played pro hockey, and it's it's worked out. And even if they didn't make it to the NHL, right, you get the Bathersons and the Norrises, and their dads played in the NHL. And listen, this is going to be a lot of fun for Ottawa fans, and I know that there's some fans that were a little bit agitated at the end of the year when Ottawa won all those games, and they're like, "You're ruining our draft spot." I still think, and Meth would know better, there's nothing better than creating a winning culture. And, and for Brady Tkachuk and Thomas Chabot and Batherson and Norris to walk out of the building in the middle of May and feel like we can legitimately maybe challenge for a playoff spot, that's worth 5 or 6 spots in the draft, I think.
Agreed.
And at the end of the year, I forget which player we were talking to, but it might have been Josh Norris. It was somebody who said like the winning changed everything. It just made the feeling around the entire organization just a whole lot different, right? And that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for another top 3 pick or top 3 pick. You want to actually win some hockey games.
Yeah, and if you're a player, you don't care about that, right? Like, and I think you guys. I know I'm repeating it, but as a player, certainly as a younger group with that core that they have right now, that was like the perfect season for that group as far as having a nice little learning curve and kind of grooming up for next season, where you struggle at the beginning, you learn from that, you start finding your way around Christmas, and then all of a sudden you're a hockey team and you're winning games and you're seeing a little success. And the best part is your younger players are driving the ship, right? Like they're driving that bus right now, and now they know that they can do it. They're assertive, and they know that their play can speak for itself. They're not going to go into camp next year with all these question marks. Your top line, your number 1 line right now is basically set, which is huge. Really, I think if you're a Sens fan, as Ian mentioned, this is incredible. Like, you're in a really good position here. We just need to get some consistency out of the goaltending, of course, which I think will come. We got to stay patient. I mean, we can only stay patient for so long, but I really, truly believe it'll come. And then obviously the defense is set up really nicely. I don't know that it's going to be perfect next year, but once you get Sanderson in there, JBD is going to be coming in. This team's going to be rounded out really nicely. And then the team's going to have a lot of leeway to round it out and insulate all those good players with some role guys. So for me, I mean, I think right now it's ideal, and it's gonna be set up for a nice little couple of years moving forward.
Dylan Guenther has been selected by the Arizona Coyotes as 9th overall. This is I'm all in on this. I don't know what happens next, but I'm all in to see how this plays out.
But this is exactly what we thought would happen, where a lot of people said this is where the draft was going to actually get interesting, because it was 9 consensus skaters. And unless somebody threw a wrench in there and took a goalie, it was 9 consensus skaters and then a drop off, and Ottawa's sitting there at 10. So this is going to be interesting. I still maintain you got a free spot on the bingo card here a little bit. If you're Ottawa, you're playing with house money at whatever analogy you want to use. Shoot your shot. Go swing for the fences. If you think that that's the goalie, swing for the fences. Like do whatever you think you need to do to get the best player right now.
Here's the issue. Ottawa on the clock. They have 4 minutes to make this pick. Is if you say shoot your shot and you pick a goalie, how long can you hold on to him before, if it doesn't pan out? You know what I mean? Like now you feel like you're married to him because we tried to make this deal work and we took him 10th overall. It's almost like the Logan Brown thing. At what point do you go, you know what? Now we have to move on.
I don't like picking a goalie in the first round period. And I know that's probably an old school thing, but I just, you're going to get a guy that probably projection wise won't be really at the level you need him to be at until 5-6 years down the road. And that's all good and great if you're looking at the long game. But I mean, if there's another guy available right now, because I don't know any of these kids, but if you've got a player up front, a forward, a centerman, whatever, and he's available and he's basically on par with that goalie, I'm going player every time. That's just me, because to have the patience to groom up a goaltender, cater to him, you got to coddle him a little bit, make sure he puts in his time in the American League or wherever he's playing. That can get frustrating for the fan base and of course the organization. So if you've got patience and the leeway to do it. But for me, it's like, if you've got a player available, you go with that player. That's just my 2 cents.
Can we take a moment to soak in the fact that Ottawa hasn't even drafted the goalie yet, and Wally's like, "Is it time to move on from the goalie?"
And I was the guy preaching before the show about how we got to be very respectful of the players who we draft. And here I am, and I'm shitting all over a potential goaltender. Anyway, I apologize. I'm just saying, and I'm sure the goaltender will be great. I know there's a couple really good ones available. I just know that these projections with goalies are very difficult, right? Like, you could have a 7th rounder turn out to be an absolute stud Vezina trophy in 10 years, but you just
isn't that Henrik Lundqvist?
Well, that's my point. So,
right. Yeah.
You can't, goalies, I feel like, are just a little bit more difficult to project. There's a lot of maturity that has to come with that. Whereas with a player, you got a much better idea, at least sooner. But again, it's just an opinion. It's not fact. And again, the Ottawa scouting staff is fantastic. They know what they're doing.
The only thing I'll say about the goalie is, apparently, because I don't know, I wouldn't know Jesper Wallstedt if I fell over him. Apparently, people say, though, that he is perhaps like a generational type goaltender where he is going to be dominant. So if he's there, do you make that, right? Do you make that call? I couldn't tell you. I'm going to trust Trent Mann to make that call, but I think that those guys will figure out that they probably want to make something like that happen. And the pick is in. They're still doing an interview with Ron Francis. So I'm interested to see how this all plays out, if they should just cut the interview.
Just cut the interview. What are you doing?
But that Space Needle, they need to show more of the Space Needle.
Is that where he is right now?
Yeah, he's in the Space Needle. No.
Actually? He really is?
Yeah, they showed earlier at the war room was at the Space Needle. Good for that. Now Toronto's going to be at the CN Tower from now on.
Well, did Bob ruin it already? By the way, did Mackenzie go on?
Oh, I haven't checked.
Not that I've seen. I've been scrolling here feverishly.
And we're going to lose Mendes right away. I want people to know, because he's got to get to work after this and jump on the Zoom call with the newest Ottawa Senators. So Mendes, before we, I guess, have to rush out of here with you, thanks for stopping by, because this has been a whole lot of fun. So
thanks,
we do
Ian.
Appreciate it.
Oh, you're already saying goodbye to me, like as if.
Well, you're the one that said to me, "I got to go right away."
I do, because there's going to be a Zoom call here coming up probably within maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. But yeah, listen, I can stick around for a couple of minutes and we can talk about what they.
Well, I have something to do afterwards, and that is our opening night rosters. If you want to go over them with us, so Meth and I have built our opening night rosters. And if you want to debate them with us, you are more than free to stick around.
I'll tell you what. Well, we'll do that, and then if I get the note that they're
that's fair.
Why weren't we doing that instead of talking about
because I forgot
the bar in Columbus?
I'm trying to bring a little bit of differentness to the podcast, and so we just thought we would try to talk about some bars in Columbus. Like I'm just trying to do some different stuff.
I want a little bit of differentness T-shirts printed out. A little bit of differentness. I mean,
that's okay. So now you understand how Meth gets frustrated working with me.
Hey, can I tell you what Bob McKenzie is saying?
Yeah.
The Ottawa Senators are likely to go off the board. Off the board. I wonder if the I always never know the kid's name. Ratu or Rati, the Finnish kid. I wonder if that's the off the board pick.
Wow. Okay.
So anyway, that's kind of Bob McKenzie saying it doesn't look like
they take Tyler Boucher. Tyler Boucher. So
let's just take a break as we all go to Google.
Tyler Boucher is ranked. I'm trying to even find him on my list.
He's from the North, the National Team Development Program. That much I know, and that's about all I know.
I don't even have. I don't even have him. He's a right winger, 6'1", 205 pounds.
I don't know who he is.
Wow. There you go. So they did do something. Something that I guess not many people saw coming.
And I believe he's related. Is he related to Brian Boucher? We'll have to look that up.
His father is Brian Boucher.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right.
So, and of course, if you don't know Brian Boucher, 13 seasons with the Flyers, Coyotes, Flames,
Let's just connect the dots here for a second.
Yeah.
Pierre Maguire was replaced on NBC's broadcast by who?
Brian Boucher.
Wait a second. That's Brian Boucher's son?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is. What? I have it right here from the NHL.
It is, right?
I played with Brian Boucher in Columbus for a little bit, and I got his son. Okay, so you must have had a kid really young then. How old is Brian Boucher?
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out who Tyler Boucher is. Anyway, he's 18 years old. He played with the U.S. National Development Team program.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't even have him on the list. I don't even know where he is.
I'll tell you what. I'll try and look it up where he was put on the Athletics mock board. But I'm seeing some prospect experts like Corey Pronman, Chris Peters, who's a terrific prospect guy. He just tweeted out all caps, wow.
Okay, so
I think this has certainly shocked some people.
And Bob McKenzie has said most common scout comment on Boucher during my interviews. He's not Tom Wilson, and the but, of course, is his style he plays, son of Brian Boucher. So
nice.
Interesting. Nice. That's an interesting decision. But yeah, again,
I'm intrigued.
They were allowed to make that decision, right? Like they have built up enough leeway to make that call before all of us get excited and jump down their throats. Well, like they've built up enough to show that they brought in really good picks.
Right. So, and it's simple. We can squabble over this all we want, but just look at their draft history. They're great at drafting. We have to trust them, right? The Mann brothers know what they're doing. And I'm not, I'm surprised, I guess, but really, I mean, this might end up being a stud. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
You go back to the night they took Brady Tkachuk and all the noise in the marketplace of why you took character over skill. You would the one thing we've learned is just have a little bit of patience in Trent Mann and Pierre Dorion's ability to assess younger talent. Like they're very good at that. So pump the brakes on but I will admit, this is a shocker. This was, I never even saw this guy on any mock draft list anywhere. So they shut this thing right down.
Right.
I didn't see anybody suggesting.
Yeah. Now, the only thing is, if all this so-called hockey brain who have put all these lists together and central scouting and all that have nowhere near the spot for him in the top 10.
Yeah.
Like where is it that you're going? You're sitting in the office with everybody and Trent Mann goes, listen, guys, this is the one. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but we've got all these. Nope, this is the guy. Like that takes some big coins to make that kind of move.
And so this is going to be the conversation that'll be had. Everyone's going to say, why didn't you move down? Why didn't you at 10? Why didn't you move to 18? And the answer is the Wally and Methot show didn't want to keep going on. That's why. But in all seriousness, that is going to be a conversation that is brought up. Could you have got this guy later in round one?
For sure.
No, but they seem to like him.
Yeah. Like that's like you could have moved drastically down to get a guy that, well, maybe we're all wrong. And all the scouts from the, all the people in the NHL who thought that, he was high enough that they could have picked him too, but I'd be shocked if that was the case. Like if Bob McKenzie and those guys don't have him up there, there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah, but Bob McKenzie and all those guys aren't going around watching all these prospects. They're
talking to all of them.
They're talking to scouts, right?
Sure.
There's going to be players that slip. I mean, again, this goes back to my original point. I mean, they know these scouts know what they're doing. They've got a war room of guys that are all discussing it. They're fighting for their own players, right? That they've decided to pick. I mean, clearly this kid can play, so I'm not even going to question it. I'm excited for training camp to see what he can do.
Okay. So before Mendes goes, guys, if you have the rosters, the opening night rosters that Meth and I have put together, we'll put them up. So I have taken a look at yours, Meth. We have some differences, which is good. So our first line is the same, and that is, of course, Tkachuk, Norris, and Batherson. But I put Colin White in as a second line center for now, and I moved Dadonov into that second line spot. Now, the reason I did that is because Nick Paul and Connor Brown played so well together at the Worlds. I left them together on a line with Shane Pinto so they can insulate him in that third line spot until he gets to be a better center and understands the game more. And then I put Tierney with Watson and Alex Formenton. So everything else seems to be kind of the same. Josh Brown is probably that fifth D right there alongside of
we
Victor
don't even
Mete.
have to discuss the D. It's the D's kind of a crapshoot, and so I'm agreeing. Your list is pretty good, though. I've got some changes there. But,
so we're gonna take a look now at your list.
Yep.
And you can tell me why you decided to make some of those decisions.
The top line I'm not touching, right? Top line stays the way it is.
Yeah.
Stützle, and with White on that second line center, for me, they got to get him going. And with that price tag, it wouldn't shock me if he goes to camp and sees that he's slotted between those two players. Brown, just a terrific two-way guy who just coming off a great year. Stützle had a pretty damn good year too. So given his age, of course, but to me, that's not really a surprise that I've got him there. I think for me, you got the one that was a little contentious was putting Foremans in on that third line, but that's because to me, that line is a shutdown line. Dadonov, I don't know where to put him. I'd rather not have him in the lineup, but I got to find him a spot. So for now, he's going to slot in there. And I gave the Sens, their hands are tied with this kid. They need him to get going, particularly on the power play. Now, would I call that a shutdown line with Dadonov on it? Absolutely not. But right now, I don't know where he goes. I've got Kelly. Kelly's my dark horse on that back line.
Kelly.
Yeah, on the fourth. I just love what he brings to the table. And a mixture of him with Watson and a responsible two-way Tierney. I just think that's a tough line to play against. You've got Tierney who's seasoned. Watson is seasoned as well, but plays a really hard-nosed style. Parker Kelly echoes that. I mean, if I'm a defenseman, I don't want to go out there against those guys. So that's kind of how I have it structured. Dadonov is the only one that I was very weary with, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward.
You've moved Nick Paul to the middle, which hasn't happened.
He's a centerman. He can play center. I watched.
He can, but they haven't let him play center.
I know, but at some point they're going to have to figure that out. And I honestly, and they may not do that. They may choose not to, but I know he's fully capable. He's so responsible now. And he's made so many strides with his confidence. Like he owns the middle of the ice now. He's hanging on to pucks. He's taking the time, hanging on to it, beating a couple guys up the ice. He was doing it with the Senators. He's done it with Team Canada. I saw him do it there, which to me is a big eye opener. Yes, it was a watered down tournament, but I just think when you're displaying that kind of confidence on an international stage with other players and new coaches, it says a lot about where your game's at. I went through that right before I got traded to the Ottawa Senators. It was my first World Championships playing overseas, coming off an injury-plagued season with Columbus. I broke my jaw, but I had a really good tournament. So I just think that this is kind of like a springboard for Nick Paul, and I'm excited to see what he can do moving forward.
Mendes, I don't know if you have time, but do you want to weigh in on our roster, our forward lines?
So the biggest question I have, and it kind of comes out a little bit in yours, Wally, is the center ice position.
Right. And Shane Pinto.
It's Shane Pinto. It's Colin White. It's, Logan Brown, Tierney. Like the only thing we know about Ottawa's center ice position is Josh Norris is going to be opening night, likely in between Batherson and Tkachuk.
Agreed.
And after that, you take a dice and you roll it because you don't know. I still think they're going to go out. The guy I keep saying is Adam Henrique because of the clicking at the Worlds and the connection.
I would like
Smith.
that. Yeah, I like that.
I see that.
Too.
I do. I see that happening. And so now your second line in my mind would be Adam Henrique in the middle with Connor Brown and Nick and Timmy Stützle. Sorry, Tim Stützle. Yeah. Then your third line would be Dadonov with Colin White and Nick Paul. And then your fourth line is Austin Watson on the right side, Alex Formanton on the left, and then I don't know who your center is going to be.
And Ian, my original list was basically that, but I had a question mark on that second line center, just like you mentioned, but I couldn't provide a list with a missing player. So I had to fill them all in like a puzzle, and they all started slotting in different spots. But you're right. If they go after a number one center, or excuse me, a top two centerman, I couldn't agree more. Then the rest of your lineup just falls into place the way it should. But that's assuming someone's available and willing to come here for the right price and term.
I understand like Shane Pinto may not start out that way.
There's no way he will. No way.
I know, but I liked his game, and they just don't have anybody else right now to put there.
Yeah. And Wally, I did like,
but he did play. He did look pretty good. Like he looked confident, and I understand it's a small sample size, but he has that defensive mindset, which I think allows him to play. And you can flip him and Tierney and play him on a fourth line in 8 minutes a night but perhaps he's better suited to play in Belleville to get him more ice time.
Yeah, we agree.
All right.
Well, guys,
you're off, brother.
I'm going to run here and try and see if I can track down Brian Boucher now in the hours ahead. But nice. Hey, listen, thanks for having me. This is always great to join you guys. And I think you guys got some good interaction there from the listeners and the viewers. So thanks for having me.
And I will say this again, your work in the Athletic has been phenomenal, and your coverage of the Ottawa Senators. So we think you're top notch here at the Wally and Methot show.
Wow. And Wally says that after he only reads the first 3 paragraphs of my article, and then the rest is behind a paywall.
Can you get me your password, please?
The first 3 paragraphs, nobody writes opening paragraphs like you.
I'm a subscriber. I am a subscriber, by the way, and I'm not kidding. So thank you. Your work is fantastic.
Wow. I appreciate that, guys. I love joining you guys, and looking forward to doing it again down the road.
All right.
Have a good night, my friend. Thank you.
We'll see you guys.
There goes Ian Mendes, the Athletic, as we look to wrap up our show. Meth, interesting, just like the draft and watching it unfold each and every year. You just never know what's going to play out.
Yeah, and it's fun though, right? We can discuss it, and I really love this pick. I know we've already talked about it, but in short, in closing here, I'm excited to see what that kid can do, and with good pedigree in the family too. He's been directed the right way, and the idea that you get a Tom Wilson-esque type guy, I mean, that's huge. Even a shade of that is pretty good. So, I mean, let's be happy as Sens fans here and support the pick, and hopefully he can make some noise in camp and leave a good taste in everyone's mouth.
I hope the kids brought the car back with gas in it after their trip to Wonderland. So you can go check on them now. That is our show for tonight. Thanks for all of you dropping in to check out the Wally Methot Show Draft Live NHL Entry Draft Spectacular Show. I still don't know what it's called. We will see you next week. More shows coming your way before we take a holiday in August. For now, Matt, time to get to bed. It's past both our bedtimes. I will see you soon, my friend.
See you guys. Thank you. Thanks, Craig.
And thanks to everybody behind the scenes who put that show together, namely Craig and Alex and Kaylin. They did a phenomenal job. So
absolutely.
Good night. That's the Wally Methot Show powered by Barrhaven Ford. Time for us to drive on out of here.